Why does it seem so hard to find a decent person to be with? And then when you finally find someone special, it's even harder to maintain the relationship and keep it healthy. To think that we have all these communication devices now that supposedly make communication better, it should be easier, right? But it's really not. Compared to 100 years ago, our grandparents or great grandparents met in a very simple way. They had a simple life, they stayed together, they stayed married for the rest of their lives, and they made it look so easy. Now that is not the case. And why is that? Well, I think it's just one word, and that's expectations. Our expectations of the other person and what we want from a relationship has evolved over time, and it's so high that's even almost impossible to attain. And it's not just because of one reason. I think there are many reasons that has accumulated over time. If you think about 100 years ago, people met in a very simple way. They would just go to their town hall potluck or town hall dance, or they go to church, or they go to school, they go to the county fair, and they just meet within a few miles radius of their homes. And if you meet some guy who's a decent guy, he's a nice guy, he's got a job, doesn't drink too much, then he's good enough to be your husband. Or if you met a girl who's pretty and she loves kids, she loves to have a family, then she's good enough to be your wife. When you meet someone good enough, then that person is good enough to marry. As a matter of fact, women actually saw marriage as a way out of living from their parents' house. Back then, people married each other because they really needed each other, socially, financially, emotionally. Marriage was a status marker. Well, fast forward to today. It is crazy. You can meet just with one app at the palm of your hand, you can meet someone from across the globe. And there are so many dating apps, there are so many doors opening now. There's so much potential of who you can meet that it can get overwhelming, it can get frustrating, and it's really hard. And because of all these possibilities, our expectations are so high. 100 years ago, marriage was the dream, your life's goal, the foundation of everything. But now marriage is not the foundation anymore. It's more of like the icing on the cake. Marriage is an achievement more than a need. It's an achievement of two independent individuals who can really provide for themselves, and they just get together, and it's more of like a voluntary, elite, consumption-oriented arrangement, of course with love and caring on the side. So what happened? Well, there are quite a few things that happened, but one thing was that in 1960, the first oral contraceptive was approved by the FDA. The pill drastically changed how men and women got together. Before that, it was all about chivalry and wooing a woman. And it was so special because when you finally have sex with someone you're interested with, it was so closely related to babies and commitment. But after the pill, that's no longer the case. Women didn't necessarily have to marry the first guy they had sex with, and vice versa. Another thing that happened was that around the same time was that women started working. Women entered the workforce in droves, and actually now there's actually more women in the workforce than men. And because of that, they gain this independence financially, and also combine that with the pill, they can actually have fun and still not derail their career goals. Women got pickier. They have the power to define what a healthy relationship is, and they're in a better position to leave a bad relationship and still thrive because they can afford it. Another thing that happened was that the creation and development of high definition pornography. Back in World War II era, soldiers or men just had pinup models. They had pinup models to look at that are drawn or painted, and everything was just left to the imagination. Well, now with all this live streaming adult videos and sex toys and virtual reality, which can be even more pleasurable than the real thing, women have to really fight for attention from their men because there's so much more distraction for men. It's in ads, it's in magazines, it's everywhere. And because of that, women have to compete for attention. And with this competition for attention, women really had to learn how to have sex like men. And that, by that I mean, sex no longer has to do primarily with procreation or emotional bonding. It's more of physical fun. And because of that, sex is so much cheaper now. It's really gone down in value. It doesn't cost much for a man to woo a woman anymore because there's so much more supply, and the attitude of women towards sex has really changed. And so sex has lost its sacredness, which is unfortunate. But the irony is that with Hollywood movies and love songs and romance novel, we're still fed the idea of true love and a soulmate. And so secretly or not so secretly, although we're all independent of everything, we are still seeking for true love and a soulmate. But our expectations are so high now. We want companionship, we want friendship, we want children, we want financial security, we want a passionate lover, we want true love, we want identity, we want belonging, we want comfort, we want spontaneity. What else? We want excitement, we want true love, we want someone to heal our soul, we want someone to complete us. All these things are our expectations for that one person. And the thing is, I think it's time to really have a soul-searching session now with ourselves and really ask ourselves, are all these expectations and this artifact, an idea of a perfect mate in your head, really just exists in your head? Because people are broken. People have been hurt, just like you and me. People have been hurt. They have baggage. They have weaknesses. They need to heal their souls. And ask yourself that, is it even possible to take your expectation down a couple notches or even more? Because at the end of the day, in reality, people are just human.